There is a quiet kind of happiness, the kind no one photographs. No grand gestures, no celebrations, no speeches, just the comforting rhythm of knowing someone will be there tomorrow. Autumn had settled comfortably over Seoul. The mornings arrived with cool air, golden light, and the faint scent of roasted chestnuts drifting from neighborhood cafes. The city had become familiar, not because Naomi had memorized every street, but because she had stopped feeling like a visitor. Thursday mornings had become tradition. Neither of them remembered whose idea it had been. Only that, somehow, neither scheduled meetings before 10 anymore. Their favorite cafe sat just beyond a small pedestrian bridge overlooking the Han River. It wasn't fashionable. It wasn't exclusive. The owner knew their orders before they spoke. That was enough. When Naomi arrived, Min-jun was already seated outside beneath a maple tree whose leaves had begun turning amber and crimson. He looked up from the newspaper. "You were almost on time." She smiled. "I was 38 seconds late." "You counted." "I know you." He folded the newspaper. "Coffee?" "You already ordered." "I did." She settled comfortably into the chair across from him. Neither hurried to fill the silence. The quiet between them had become familiar, comfortable, like a favorite song that no longer required attention to appreciate. The cafe owner approached carrying 2 ceramic cups. "The usual." Naomi thanked him. As he walked away, she noticed him glance toward Min-jun with the quiet affection reserved for long-time customers. "He's very fond of you." Min-jun looked genuinely puzzled. "I've been coming here for years." "I know." She smiled over the rim of her cup. "I think he's fond of the version of you that sits here." Min-jun laughed softly. "I'm not sure there's another version." Naomi studied him for a moment longer than usual. She didn't answer. Not because she disagreed, because she wasn't certain. Their conversation wandered easily. Office renovations that were finally complete. An upcoming Hanseong Foundation scholarship announcement. A documentary Naomi had watched. Whether the maple trees would reach their peak before the first frost. Nothing extraordinary. Everything important. Across the street, a black sedan remained parked beside the curb. Its engine never started. Its windows were lightly tinted. A man sat behind the wheel, reading, or appearing to. Naomi noticed him once, then dismissed the thought. People waited in cars every day. Half an hour later, as she and Min-jun left the cafe, the sedan was gone. They crossed the pedestrian bridge together. The river reflected a sky the color of polished silver. Cyclists passed. Children laughed somewhere beyond the trees. The city carried on exactly as it always had. Near the middle of the bridge, Naomi slowed almost imperceptibly. A man in a dark charcoal coat leaned casually against the railing, looking out over the river. As Min-jun approached, the man inclined his head. Not a greeting, not quite familiarity. Recognition. Min-jun returned the gesture without breaking stride. The exchange lasted less than a second. Most people would never have noticed. Naomi did. She said nothing. Several blocks later, she spoke as though asking about the weather. "The gentleman on the bridge." Min-jun looked toward her. "What about him?" "You knew him." "A little." She nodded. "I thought so." Nothing more. She filed the observation away. That afternoon, Brooks' strategic advisory moved with the steady rhythm of a thriving office. Client calls, strategy sessions, new partnerships, the quiet urgency of work Naomi understood. As evening approached, her assistant entered carrying an elegant white box tied with a deep green silk ribbon. "It was delivered for you." Naomi looked up. "From whom?" There wasn't a card. Naomi untied the ribbon. Inside rested a beautiful arrangement of white orchids. Perfectly arranged. No note. No florist's information. No explanation. She examined the box more carefully. Nothing. "Did reception sign for it?" Her assistant nodded. "The courier asked for you by name." Naomi looked toward the flowers again. "Did he say who sent them?" "No." Naomi smiled faintly. "That's unusual." She set the orchids beside the window overlooking Seoul. For several moments, she simply admired them. Beautiful, unexpected, and perhaps entirely innocent. Then she quietly returned to work. Outside the building, across the street, a man lowered a camera. One photograph had been enough. He tucked it beneath his coat and disappeared into the evening crowd. Naomi remained at her desk as dusk gathered beyond the windows. The white orchids reflected faintly in the glass. Behind them, Seoul glowed with the familiar promise of evening. She thought once more about the black sedan, the man on the bridge, the unexplained flowers. 3 separate details, none of them alarming. Not yet. But Naomi had built a career by understanding that isolated details rarely remained isolated forever. She closed her laptop, picked up her coat, and carried the observations home with her. Patterns. Most people recognize them only after someone points them out. Naomi had spent an entire career seeing them before anyone else did. It was one of the reasons clients trusted her. Small details, repeated often enough, eventually became truth. 3 days passed. Nothing happened. Or perhaps, nothing obvious happened. Brooks Strategic Advisory had quickly become one of Seoul's most respected consulting firms. The office hummed with purpose. Morning briefings, client meetings, strategy sessions, new partnerships, the work Naomi loved. Late Wednesday afternoon, her assistant appeared in the doorway. "There's a package for you." Naomi glanced up from the report she was reviewing. "From Washington?" "I don't think so." The package was rectangular, wrapped in plain brown paper. No company branding, no return address, only Naomi's full name typed neatly on a white label. Below it, the complete address of Brooks Strategic Advisory. The correct tower, the correct floor, her private office number. Naomi looked at her assistant. "Who accepted this?" "Reception downstairs." "Did the courier ask for this floor?" Her assistant shook her head. "He already knew where to bring it." Naomi examined the label again. Her public biography listed the firm. It did not list her office number. The building directory named the company. It did not identify which floor belonged to senior leadership. Someone had known precisely where the package needed to go. Was there a sender? No. A delivery service? Nothing I recognized. Naomi carefully opened the paper. Inside was a simple lacquered wooden box. Beautifully made. Unmarked. She lifted the lid. Inside rested a porcelain teacup. White. Delicate. Painted with a single black orchid. No note. No receipt. No explanation. Her assistant waited. "Should I call building security?" Naomi considered the question. "Ask reception for the delivery footage." Her tone remained calm. "And find out whether the courier entered through the main lobby or the service entrance." Her assistant nodded and left. Naomi remained alone with the package. The porcelain cup was elegant, thoughtful even. That was what made it unsettling. It suggested knowledge without revealing intention. Someone knew where she worked, where she sat, what floor to request, and perhaps that she drank tea. She did not touch the cup again. Instead, she photographed the box, the wrapping, and the shipping label. Then she sent Min-jun a brief message. "Are you free for dinner?" His reply came less than a minute later. Yes. That evening, they met at a quiet riverside restaurant neither had visited before. Warm lantern light reflected across polished wood tables. Beyond the windows, the Han River moved beneath the city lights. The restaurant owner greeted them warmly. "I've prepared your favorite table." Naomi paused. "I don't believe we've been here before." The owner looked embarrassed. "My apologies. I must have mistaken you for another guest." Naomi smiled politely, but as she followed Min-jun toward the table, another detail joined the others. The sedan, the man on the bridge, the orchids, the package, and now, a stranger who believed he knew where she preferred to sit. Once they were alone, Min-jun studied her. "Something's bothering you." "Several things." She reached into her handbag and placed her phone on the table. The photographs appeared one by one. The wrapping, the label, the exact office information, the lacquered box, the porcelain cup. This arrived today. Min-jun examined the images carefully. Too carefully. You didn't send it? No. I didn't think so. His expression remained composed. But his eyes became still. Naomi had seen that look before. Not often. It was the expression of a man calculating several outcomes at once. What are you thinking? Min-jun looked up. That someone took considerable care with the delivery. That's not all you're thinking. No, it isn't. She waited. He chose his words carefully. Has anything else seemed unusual? Naomi leaned back slightly. There were the flowers. No sender. The sedan outside the cafe. The gentleman on the bridge. She paused. And now someone knows my exact office location. Min-jun listened without interruption. Every detail, every observation, exactly as she remembered it. When she finished, he asked only one question. Did anyone follow you today? She thought carefully. No. Then more honestly, I don't believe so. He nodded once. So you think someone might have? I think someone has been paying attention. The words settled between them. Naomi watched his reaction. He did not appear surprised enough. That observation mattered too. Do you know who would do this? No. The answer came quickly. Perhaps too quickly. Naomi held his gaze. What aren't you telling me? Min-jun's expression softened. Nothing I can confirm. That isn't the same as nothing. No, it isn't. He reached across the table and rested his hand over hers. Not to silence her. Not to reassure her with something untrue. Simply to remain connected while he considered how much of his world had begun approaching hers. Let me look into it. Naomi did not pull her hand away. I was already going to. A faint smile touched his mouth. Of course you were. Later that evening, Min-jun walked Naomi to her apartment. He waited beneath the entrance canopy until she disappeared inside. A few minutes later, the lights in her apartment came on. Only then did he return to the waiting sedan. The driver closed the door behind him. Neither man spoke for several blocks. Finally, Min-jun looked toward the passing city. Increase the rotation. The driver nodded. Yes, Chairman. No visible changes. I don't want her to feel watched. A brief pause. I want her protected. The following morning, Naomi left her apartment at the usual time. Halfway to the office, she noticed a familiar face. The same impeccably dressed man she had seen near the bridge days earlier. This time he stood across the street reading a newspaper. He did not look at her. Not once. Still, she knew he had seen her. Naomi continued walking, calmly, without changing pace. At the next intersection, she stopped near a shop window and studied the reflection behind her. The man remained across the street, still reading, still positioned where he could see the entrance to her building. She turned away from the glass. Another observation joined the others. But this one felt different. The man was not watching her like a threat. He was watching the street around her, searching faces, tracking movement, standing between her and something she could not yet see. For the first time, Naomi considered another possibility. Perhaps she was not only being watched. Perhaps she was being protected. She entered Brooks' strategic advisory and crossed the polished lobby. At the elevator, she glanced back through the glass doors. The man had disappeared. The mysterious package waited in a locked cabinet upstairs. The white orchids remained beside her office window. And somewhere between those two unexplained gifts, the shape of a larger truth had begun to emerge. Not enough to name, not enough to fear, but enough that Naomi would no longer dismiss what she saw. The pattern was becoming impossible to ignore. Everyone leaves a pattern, a route repeated often enough, a place visited without thinking, a name spoken more warmly than the others. Most patterns are harmless. They are the quiet architecture of an ordinary life. But in the wrong hands, even happiness can become intelligence. By Thursday morning, the unexplained package had been removed from Naomi's office. Building security placed it in a sealed evidence container. The porcelain cup remained untouched. The brown wrapping had been photographed. The delivery label had been preserved. Every detail catalogued. Naomi stood beside the reception desk reviewing security footage with the building manager. The courier had entered through the service entrance at 3:17 in the afternoon. Baseball cap, dark jacket, disposable mask. No company uniform. No visible identification. He carried only one package. Hers. The service elevator camera captured him entering. The camera on Naomi's floor captured nothing. For 7 minutes, the entire corridor feed had gone black. Not distorted. Not interrupted. Disabled. The building manager looked embarrassed. "We're reviewing the system." Naomi kept her attention on the frozen screen. "Who has access to the cameras?" "Building security. Senior management. The maintenance contractor." "And remotely?" A hesitation. "Our technical provider." Naomi turned toward him. "I'll need the access logs." "Ms. Brooks, those records are internal. So is my office." Her tone remained calm. The manager understood immediately. "I'll have them sent to you." Naomi returned upstairs. Her assistant waited near the elevator. "Did they find the courier?" "No." "Should we be worried?" Naomi considered the question. Concerned. She stepped into the office. Worry is rarely useful before the facts arrive. Across the city, Min-jun sat at the head of a long conference table inside Kong Global. A quarterly report remained open before him. Executives discussed projected growth across 3 markets. Their voices were measured, professional, ordinary. His phone vibrated once. A message appeared. Corridor cameras were disabled for 7 minutes. Courier identity remains unknown. Min-jun read it without changing expression, then placed the phone face down beside his hand. One of the executives paused. "Chairman." Min-jun looked up. "Continue." The meeting resumed, but his attention did not. Later that afternoon, Naomi crossed the lobby of Brooks Strategic Advisory on her way to a client meeting. The same man she had seen near the bridge stood beside the revolving doors. This time he was not pretending to read. He wore a dark suit beneath a charcoal coat. His posture was relaxed. His attention was not. Naomi stopped beside him. "You've been near my apartment." The man turned. His expression remained respectful. "Yes, ma'am." "You were also near the bridge." "Yes." "And outside my office yesterday morning." "Yes." Naomi studied him. He made no effort to deny what she had already observed. That, at least, she appreciated. "Your name?" "Han Dae-hyun." "Do you work for Min-jun?" A brief pause. "I work for Chairman Kong." The distinction was small. Naomi heard it anyway. "Am I in danger, Mr. Han?" His eyes moved briefly toward the street beyond the glass doors. "I have not been told that you are." That was carefully phrased. "Yes, ma'am." Naomi almost smiled. "At least you're honest." "I try to be." "Does Min-jun know I've noticed you?" "He assumed you would." That answer surprised her. Only slightly. The elevator opened behind her. Naomi stepped toward it, then turned back. "Try not to stand in the same place 2 mornings in a row." Mr. Han's expression remained disciplined, but something close to respect appeared in his eyes. "Yes, ma'am." That evening, Naomi found Min-jun waiting outside Brooks Strategic Advisory. No driver, no formal car, only Min-jun beside a dark sedan, holding 2 paper cups of tea. She approached without hurrying. "You assigned security to me." He handed her one of the cups. "I did." There was no denial, no attempt to minimize what she had seen. Naomi accepted the tea. "How long?" "Since the flowers." "And before that?" "The men you noticed were assigned to me." She nodded. "I assumed as much." They began walking toward the river. The evening air carried the scent of rain and fallen leaves. Seoul moved around them in familiar waves. Commuters, bicycles, cars crossing the bridge, restaurant lights appearing one by one. Naomi took a sip of tea. "Mr. Han is very literal." Min-jun glanced toward her. You spoke to him? I introduced myself. You already knew who he was. I knew what he was. Min-jun's mouth shifted with the beginning of a smile. Did he answer your questions? Technically. That sounds like him. They reached the riverwalk and slowed near the railing. For several moments, neither spoke. The city lights stretched across the Han River in long ribbons. Beautiful. Familiar. Almost peaceful enough to make the unanswered questions disappear. Almost. Naomi looked out across the water. I'm not angry that you want me protected. Min-jun waited. I'm concerned that you believe I need protection. I don't know that you do. But you believe the possibility is real. Yes. She turned toward him. From whom? I don't know yet. It was the truth. But not all of it. Naomi could feel the difference. Does this happen often? What? People sending gifts to the women in your life. Min-jun looked at her fully. There have not been women in my life. She held his gaze. That wasn't the important part of the question. No. He looked toward the river again. It does not happen often. Naomi leaned against the railing beside him. When you know more, you tell me. It was not a request. Min-jun nodded once. When I know more. And if what you know involves me, you'll hear it from me. She studied his face. The promise was sincere. Whether he would be able to keep it, she did not yet know. Min-jun reached for her hand. Naomi allowed their fingers to interlace. Not because the conversation was finished. Because it wasn't. And because difficult questions did not erase tenderness. They simply asked whether tenderness could survive the answers. Across the river walk, Mr. Han stood beneath a row of ginkgo trees, far enough away to give them privacy, close enough to intervene. Naomi glanced toward him once. This time, she did not pretend not to notice. Elsewhere in Seoul, Park Ji-hoon entered a private office through an unmarked door. The room contained no artwork, no family photographs, no indication of who owned it. Only a polished black desk, 2 chairs, and a wall of darkened glass. Park placed a slim portfolio on the desk. Inside were photographs. Naomi leaving Brooks' strategic advisory. Naomi entering her apartment. Naomi and Min-jun crossing the pedestrian bridge. Naomi seated at their Thursday cafe. Min-jun touching the small of her back as they entered a restaurant. Their hands linked beside the Han River. There were schedules, vehicle registrations, office access points, names of assistants, addresses of frequently visited businesses. A map marked with routes between Naomi's apartment, her office, the cafe, and Kong Global. The ordinary architecture of their life, reduced to information. Park remained standing. A figure sat beyond the reach of the desk lamp. Only one hand was visible. Still, patient. A signet ring caught the light. Park spoke quietly. She notices more than expected. The figure did not respond. She identified the protection detail. Silence. She has also begun reviewing the delivery footage. A voice finally emerged from the darkness. Is she frightened? No. Park glanced toward Naomi's photograph. She appears curious. The unseen figure leaned back. And Kong? He has increased security. Discreetly? Yes. The room became silent again. Park waited. He had learned long ago not to fill silence merely because it made other men uncomfortable. At last, the voice gave a single instruction. Continue watching. Park lowered his head. Yes. He closed the portfolio, but before leaving, his attention settled on one photograph. Naomi and Min-jun beside the river. They were not looking toward the photographer. They were looking at each other. Min-jun's expression was unguarded, almost peaceful. Park studied it for several seconds, then placed it apart from the others. That night, Naomi returned home. She set her handbag beside the door and removed her coat. The apartment was quiet. Warm light glowed over the bookshelves. The maple bookmark from Min-jun's childhood home rested beside her first notebook. The second notebook remained unopened. Still blank. Still waiting. Naomi stood at the window overlooking the city. Far below, cars moved through the streets like streams of light. Somewhere outside, Mr. Han was likely watching the entrance. Somewhere else, Min-jun was searching for answers. And somewhere she could not yet see, someone had taken the time to learn the shape of her days. She opened her first notebook. On a clean page, she wrote 4 lines. Flowers without a sender. A package delivered through disabled cameras. Protection without explanation. Min-jun was concerned before he was surprised. She stopped, read the final sentence again, then underlined it once. Naomi closed the notebook. She was not frightened, but she was no longer merely observing the pattern. She had begun investigating the man standing at its center. A perimeter is invisible until someone tries to cross it. Before that moment, it is only distance, position, routine. A man standing near a door, car waiting half a block away. A face that appears often enough to become familiar. Protection rarely announces itself. Neither does the danger that makes it necessary. The following afternoon, Brooks Strategic Advisory hosted a private reception for representatives from several international firms. The gathering was small, controlled. 40 invited guests, senior executives, government advisors, regional partners, people whose names had been checked twice before they entered the room. Naomi moved through the reception with the effortless composure that had defined her career. She greeted clients, introduced members of her Seoul team, shifted easily between English and Korean pleasantries, listened more than she spoke, and noticed everything. Mr. Han stood near the far wall, not beside her, never directly behind her, close enough to intervene, distant enough to preserve the appearance that she moved through the evening alone. Naomi caught his reflection in the glass overlooking the city. This time, she did not wonder whether he was there for her. She knew. The room glowed beneath warm architectural lighting. Champagne glasses moved between guests. A string quartet played softly near the windows. Seoul stretched beyond the glass in layers of silver and blue. Beautiful, orderly, secure. Near the entrance, a man presented an invitation bearing the name of a regional technology executive. The name was legitimate. The invitation was not. The receptionist scanned the code. A brief red light appeared. The man smiled apologetically. There must be a mistake. He produced a business card. Expensive paper. Embossed lettering. Perfectly prepared. The receptionist looked toward the guest list. Before she could speak, Mr. Han was beside her. He did not touch the man. He did not raise his voice. He simply looked at the invitation, then at the business card, then at the man. The executive whose name appears here is currently in Singapore. The stranger's smile remained. Our schedules changed. No. Mr. Han's tone was quiet. His did not. Cross the room. Naomi was speaking with a client when she noticed the exchange. Nothing about Mr. Han's posture appeared aggressive. That made the interruption more significant. He had positioned himself between the stranger and the reception without attracting the attention of anyone else. The man glanced into the room. Only once. His eyes moved past the guests and settled on Naomi. She saw it. Mr. Han saw it too. The stranger turned back toward him. I was told Ms. Brooks was expecting me. Mr. Han's expression did not change. She is not. For 1 second, the air between them became still. Then the man gave a polite nod. My mistake. He slipped the business card back into his pocket and walked toward the elevators. Mr. Han waited until the doors closed. Then he spoke quietly into the cuff of his sleeve. No visible alarm. No disruption to the reception. The quartet continued playing. The guests continued talking. Most people never realized anything had happened. Naomi did. 10 minutes later, her assistant approached. Everything is fine. Naomi looked toward the entrance. That usually means something wasn't. Her assistant hesitated. Security handled it. Naomi excused herself from the conversation and crossed the room. Mr. Han met her near a private corridor. Who was he? We're confirming that. He used a false invitation. Yes. He knew my name. Yes. Naomi's expression remained composed. What did he want? He did not say. He looked directly at me. Mr. Han paused. Yes. For the first time since she had met him, his carefully neutral expression revealed concern. Only a trace, but Naomi noticed. Was he armed? No. Did he threaten anyone? No. Then why are you concerned? Mr. Han looked toward the reception entrance. Because he did not expect to get inside. Naomi studied him. Explain. He expected to be stopped. The music continued beyond the corridor. Soft, elegant, almost absurdly peaceful. He was testing the security. Mr. Han nodded. That is my assessment. To see how close he could get. Yes. And whether I was protected. Another pause. Yes. Naomi looked through the glass wall toward the reception. Her clients continued smiling. Her employees continued working. The evening she had carefully planned continued exactly as intended. But the shape of it had changed. Someone had approached her world not to enter it, but to measure its walls. Does Min-jun know? He is being informed. I asked whether he knows. Not yet. Naomi reached for her phone. Mr. Han spoke before she could unlock it. He is in a foundation meeting. She looked at him. And Mr. Han lowered his head slightly. Nothing more needed to be said. Naomi called Min-jun. Across the city, the Hanseong Foundation boardroom was filled with educators, trustees, and scholarship directors. Min-jun sat near the center of the table as a university dean presented plans for the coming year. His phone vibrated. Naomi's name appeared. He answered immediately. Naomi. There was an incident at the reception. He stood. The dean stopped speaking. What happened? A man used a false invitation. Are you safe? Yes. Where is Han? Beside me. Min-jun looked toward Ji-hoon. She was already closing the meeting folder. Already understanding. Did the man touch you? No. Speak to you? No. He told security I was expecting him. Silence. Naomi heard the change in Min-jun's breathing. Small, controlled, but unmistakable. He was testing the perimeter, she said. Min-jun did not ask how she knew. He was. Do you recognize that method? Pause followed. Too long. Min-jun. I recognize the intention. That wasn't my question. No, it wasn't. He walked away from the boardroom table. The trustees remained seated. No one asked where he was going. No one attempted to stop him. I'm coming to you. The reception is still underway. End it. No. His steps stopped. Naomi looked through the corridor glass at her employees. They worked for weeks on this evening. Naomi. The man did not enter. That does not make you safe. No. Her voice remained calm. But neither does allowing him to decide when my life stops. Min-jun closed his eyes briefly. Not in frustration. In recognition. This was the woman he had fallen in love with. The woman who would listen to danger, but would not surrender authority to it. Keep Han beside you. He already is. Do not leave through the main entrance. I won't. I'll be there in 20 minutes. The call ended. Naomi returned to the reception. Her expression did not reveal what had occurred. She thanked a visiting executive. Introduced two clients whose companies needed one another. Listened as a junior consultant explained a proposal. The evening continued, because she chose that it would. But Mr. Han no longer stood near the wall. He remained within several steps of her. The change was subtle. Naomi noticed. So did the men observing the reception from across the street. Inside a parked sedan, a camera lens withdrew from the upper windows of Brooks Strategic Advisory. A message was sent. Protection confirmed. Response time under 3 minutes. Direct access unsuccessful. The reply came moments later. Enough. Min-jun arrived before the final guest left. He entered through the private elevator wearing the same dark suit he had worn to the foundation meeting. No overcoat, No driver beside him. His expression remained controlled. But the room changed when he entered. Several Korean executives turned toward him. One stood immediately, then another. A third lowered his head. The gestures were subtle, reflexive, more deferential than ordinary respect. Naomi watched from across the room. Min-jun did not acknowledge the reactions. Perhaps he no longer noticed them. Perhaps he had grown accustomed to rooms rearranging themselves around his presence. He crossed directly to her. "Are you all right?" "I am." He looked at Mr. Han. "Report." Mr. Han spoke quietly. "False credential. No weapon. No physical contact." The subject left voluntarily and entered a vehicle with altered plates. "Footage. Secured. Facial identification? In progress." Naomi watched the exchange. Not only the words, the speed, the precision, the absence of explanation. This was not a wealthy businessman speaking to private security. This was command. Practiced. Absolute. Min-jun turned back to her. "We're leaving." Naomi held his gaze. In a moment, she crossed to the final guests, thanked them personally, praised her team, congratulated her assistant on an exceptional evening. Only after the doors closed behind the last visitor did Naomi pick up her handbag. Min-jun waited. He did not rush her again. In the private elevator, they stood beside one another in silence. Mr. Han remained near the control panel. The mirrored walls reflected three composed figures: a strategist, a protector, and a man Naomi was beginning to understand held far more power than his corporate title explained. In the underground garage, an unfamiliar security vehicle waited beside Min-jun's sedan. Two additional men stood nearby. Both inclined their heads when Min-jun approached. Not casually, deeply. Naomi stopped. The men straightened. Min-jun turned toward her. She looked at the security vehicle, then at the two men, then at Mr. Han. Finally, at Min-jun. "This is more than a precaution." The garage became completely still. Min-jun's expression softened. "Yes. Is this because of the man tonight?" "No." His answer was quiet. "This existed before tonight." Naomi absorbed the words. Behind Min-jun, the men waited without moving. No questions. No visible impatience. Only discipline. She had seen powerful people all over the world. Presidents, diplomats, billionaires. Men who expected a room to bend because their names appeared on buildings. This was different. These men were not impressed by Min-jun. They answered to him. Naomi did not ask the question forming in her mind. Not yet. Instead, she entered the car. Min-jun followed. The drive to her apartment passed in silence. Seoul moved beyond the windows. Neon signs, wet pavement, late-night restaurants. The city she had learned to love, now layered with a second map she had never been shown. Halfway home, Min-jun's phone vibrated. Mr. Han had sent the captured image of the stranger. Beneath it appeared a partial identification. A former employee of a logistics company dissolved 3 years earlier. The company's final legal representative had been connected to one name: Park Ji-hoon. Min-jun stared at the screen. Naomi noticed. "Do you know him?" Min-jun locked the phone. "I know the name attached to him." "Who?" He looked out the window. "Park Ji-hoon." The name meant nothing to Naomi, but the way Min-jun said it did. Not surprise. Recognition. History. "Is he responsible?" "I don't know." "Do you believe he could be?" "Yes." Naomi nodded. She did not demand an immediate explanation inside a moving car with security surrounding them. She did not mistake restraint for surrender. She simply filed the name beside the others. The flowers, the package, the missing footage, the false invitation. Park Ji-hoon. Outside Naomi's apartment, Min-jun walked her to the entrance. This time, for men remained visible along the street, no longer pretending to be commuters. No newspapers, no casual distance. The perimeter had closed. Naomi stopped beneath the entrance canopy. "When will you tell me who he is? When I confirm why he's doing this?" "That could take days." Yes. And until then? You stay protected. Her expression cooled. That is not a substitute for information. I know. Do you? Min-jun looked at her. The city reflected faintly in the glass doors behind her. I am trying to keep you outside something I have spent years containing. Naomi's voice softened. You should have considered that before you invited me into your life. The words landed between them. Not cruel. Not accusatory. True. Min-jun lowered his gaze briefly. When he looked at her again, there was no defense in his expression. Only regret. You're right. Naomi had expected resistance. His agreement unsettled her more. She stepped closer. I am not asking you to solve everything tonight. I know. I am asking you to stop deciding which truths I can handle. Min-jun's jaw tightened. Not with anger. With the effort of confronting a promise he had made to himself long before he met her. A promise that no one he loved would ever be pulled into the shadows with him. I need one more night. Naomi held his gaze. To do what? To confirm whether Park is watching you because of me. And if he is? Min-jun's expression changed. Only slightly, but the warmth disappeared. Then he has made a mistake. Naomi watched him. This was not the man from the cafe. Not the grandson who had shown her his childhood home. Not the man who carried tea outside her office. And yet, it was. She reached for the apartment door. Tomorrow. Min-jun nodded. Tomorrow. Naomi entered the building. The doors closed between them. Min-jun remained outside until the elevator carried her safely upward. Then he turned toward Mr. Han. Bring Park to me. Mr. Han paused. Alive. Min-jun looked toward the dark street. Yes. A beat passed. For now. Upstairs. Naomi stood beside her apartment window. Below, Min-jun's security detail moved into position. Cars at both ends of the street. Men near the entrance. Another figure on the opposite rooftop. No longer discreet. No longer deniable. She opened her notebook. Beneath the previous observations, she wrote, The stranger expected to be stopped. The men do not merely protect Min-jun. They obey him. Park Ji-hoon is not a new name to him. Tomorrow he tells me the truth. Naomi placed the pen beside the page. For the first time, she did not underline an observation. She drew a line beneath the entire list. A boundary, not around herself, between what she knew and what Min-jun had not yet told her. Across Seoul, Park Ji-hoon stood before the dark window of his apartment. His phone displayed the final report from the reception. Protection confirmed. Park closed the message. He had not expected the man to reach Naomi. That had never been the purpose. He had wanted to know how quickly Min-jun would move, how much protection he would reveal, how much power he would expose. For her, Park looked down at the photograph of Naomi and Min-jun beside the Han River. Then at the image of Min-jun entering Brooke's strategic advisory less than 20 minutes after her call. A faint understanding settled across his face. He had spent months searching for Min-jun's weakness. He had been looking in the wrong places. Every life contains rooms we do not invite others into. Rooms built from obligation, from inheritance, from choices made long before love arrived. For months, Min-jun had shown Naomi the parts of himself he believed she could safely hold. The grandson, the businessman, the philanthropist, the man who remembered her coffee order. But there were other rooms, and once a door opened, could not be made invisible again. Morning arrived beneath a sky heavy with rain. Seoul moved more slowly than usual. Umbrellas gathered at intersections. Water traced silver paths down office windows. The city seemed quieter, as though it, too, were waiting for an answer. Naomi had slept little, not from fear, from calculation. She had replayed the previous evening carefully. The false invitation, the men in the garage, the way Min-jun had said Park Ji-hoon's name, the phrase he had used outside her building. Something I have spent years containing. By 8 o'clock, she was already inside Brooke's strategic advisory. Her first meeting was not until 9. The office remained nearly empty. Only the soft hum of ventilation and the distant sounds of morning traffic accompanied her. The white orchids still stood beside the window. Their petals had begun to curl at the edges. Beautiful things did not remain untouched forever. Naomi opened her notebook. Beneath the line she had drawn the night before, she wrote one sentence. Today he tells me the truth. She closed the cover. 9:15. Min-jun called. Not texted. Called. Are you at the office? Yes. I'm coming to you. You said we would speak today. We will. His voice was controlled. But behind it, movement, car doors, low voices, urgency kept carefully out of sight. What happened? We identified the man from the reception. And he was found this morning. Naomi became still. Alive? Yes. The answer came without hesitation. She noticed that too. Where? Min-jun paused. Not somewhere we can discuss over the phone. She looked through the glass wall toward her arriving employees. Then come here. I can't. Why? Another pause. Because I need to see him first. Naomi leaned back in her chair. And you intend to leave me here while you do that? I intend to keep you away from this. Her voice remained quiet. We discussed that. I remember. Apparently not clearly enough. Min-jun did not answer. The silence between them was no longer comfortable. It held everything he still refused to say. Finally, he spoke. I'll send Han. For what? To take you home. No. Naomi. I am not leaving my office because an unidentified man failed to enter a reception. He is no longer unidentified. Then identify him. Min-jun's voice hardened slightly. His name is Lee Sang-ho. That tells me nothing. He worked for Park. Doing what? The hesitation returned. This time, Naomi heard something beneath it. Not uncertainty. Reluctance. Surveillance. Of me. Yes. The word landed cleanly. No softening. No abstraction. Naomi looked toward the white orchids. The flowers. Likely. The package. Likely. The disabled cameras? Yes. And Park ordered it. We believe so. Why? Min-jun did not answer. Naomi closed her eyes briefly. There it was. The center of every unanswered question. Because of you, she said. His silence confirmed it. The office door opened. Mr. Han entered. He carried no newspaper. Made no effort to appear casual. 2 additional security men waited in the corridor behind him. Naomi looked at them. Then at the phone. You sent 3 men. I sent enough. For what? To make certain you reach me safely. Naomi stood. Where are you? Min-jun exhaled slowly. When he answered, the resistance had changed. Not disappeared. Changed. As though he understood the choice was no longer whether she would enter the truth. Only whether he would walk beside her when she did. I'll send you the location. The call ended. Mr. Han waited. Naomi took her coat from the back of her chair. Her assistant appeared at the doorway, concern immediately replacing her morning greeting. Is everything all right? Naomi slipped her notebook into her handbag. I don't know yet. She crossed the office, then paused beside her assistant. Reschedule my morning meetings. For when? Naomi looked toward the rain beyond the windows. I'll tell you when I know. The security vehicle moved through Seoul beneath steady rain. Mr. Han sat in the front passenger seat. One vehicle traveled ahead. Another followed. No attempt at discretion. Naomi watched the city pass beyond the tinted glass. They did not drive toward Kong Global, or the Hanseong Foundation, or Min-jun's residence. The route took them north, away from familiar districts, past office towers, past government buildings, into an older part of the city where stone walls stood between narrow streets and traditional rooftops appeared behind modern gates. Naomi checked the time, then the route on her phone. The driver turned before the navigation system advised him to. Another car blocked the street behind them. Not traffic. Security. They stopped before a tall black gate set into an old stone wall. No sign. No company name. No visible address. The gate opened before the vehicle came to a complete stop. Inside, a private compound stretched around a restored Hanok residence. Traditional tiled roofs framed a modern glass structure built farther into the courtyard. Rain darkened the stone pathways. Black sedans lined one side of the property. Men in tailored coats stood beneath the eaves. Too many to be household security. Too disciplined to be guests. Naomi stepped from the vehicle. Mr. Han held an umbrella above her. Every man in the courtyard looked toward her. Not with surprise. Recognition. They already knew who she was. One man lowered his head. Then another. Not deeply. Not to her. In acknowledgement of the person she had arrived to see. Naomi walked beside Mr. Han through the courtyard. She counted entrances, cameras, vehicles, men positioned near every exit. Observation remained instinct, even when the truth surrounding her had begun to feel unreal. Inside the modern wing, the atmosphere changed. Traditional warmth gave way to polished stone, dark wood and muted lighting. No corporate branding. No reception desk. No artwork except a single calligraphy panel mounted against the far wall. For black characters, brushstrokes bold enough to appear carved into the paper. Naomi stopped before it. What does it say? Mr. Han followed her gaze. Order before power. Whose words? Chairman Kang's grandfather. Another piece. Filed away, they continued down a long corridor. Men stood outside a set of dark wooden doors. One opened as Naomi approached. Inside, a conference room stretched beneath low, warm lighting. 12 men sat along both sides of a long table. Some were older, some younger, all impeccably dressed. No laptops, no presentation screens, only folders, tea and silence. Min-jun stood at the far end. His jacket had been removed. His white shirt sleeves were rolled once at the wrist. A small stain marked one cuff. Not blood, ink, black calligraphy ink. For 1 second, Naomi saw the man she knew. Then the room reacted to her arrival. Every man stood. At once, the sound of chairs moving across the floor echoed through the silence. No one spoke. Min-jun looked toward Naomi. His expression changed. Concern, regret, and something more difficult to name. The recognition that the moment he had tried to delay had arrived without his permission. Naomi entered. The men remained standing. You brought her here? The question came from an older man seated closest to Min-jun. He had not yet fully risen. His tone carried rank. History. The expectation that he could question anyone in the room. Min-jun turned toward him. I did. The older man studied Naomi. She should not be involved. Min-jun's voice became quiet. She already is. The man's expression tightened. Then remove her. Min-jun did not raise his voice. He did not move. Yet every person in the room became completely still. You will not speak about her as though she is an object to be moved. The older man lowered his gaze. Not immediately, but eventually. Naomi watched. The authority in Min-jun's voice was not corporate. It did not come from a title printed beneath a company logo. It came from something older, something understood before it was explained. The man bowed his head. My apologies, Chairman. Naomi heard the word differently this time. Not Chairman Kong of Kong Global. Not a boardroom courtesy. A designation. Position. Min-jun walked toward her. We should speak privately. Naomi did not move. Who is Lee Sang-ho? Several men exchanged brief glances. Min-jun noticed. So did Naomi. He worked for Park Ji-hoon. You told me that. He was part of Park's organization. What organization? Min-jun looked around the room. Every man waited. No one interrupted him. No one appeared uncertain about what Naomi had just stepped into. Only Naomi remained outside the knowledge everyone else shared. Leave us. The command was soft, immediate. Every man began gathering his documents. The older man nearest Min-jun paused. Chairman. Min-jun looked at him. Nothing more. The man closed his folder. Within less than a minute, the room emptied. Mr. Han remained near the door. Min-jun gave him a slight nod. He left as well. The doors closed. Naomi and Min-jun stood alone. The long table stretched between them. 12 untouched cups of tea. 12 chairs. 12 men who had obeyed him without question. For several seconds, neither spoke. Rain moved gently against the dark windows. Naomi placed her handbag on the table. You promised me the truth. I know. Was this what you planned to tell me? No. What did you plan to tell me? Min-jun looked toward the calligraphy panel beyond the glass wall. Enough to keep you safe. Naomi's expression changed. Not anger. Disappointment. You still believe those are the same thing? No. His answer came softly. I'm beginning to understand they are not. She walked toward the head of the table. A folder remained open beside his chair. Inside were photographs from the reception. The false invitation. Lee Sang-ho's identification. Images of the white orchids. The package. Her apartment building. Her office. Their cafe. Naomi stopped. Her life had been arranged into evidence. Again. But this time, on Min-jun's table. She turned toward him. How long have you lived like this? Min-jun did not answer immediately. Most of my life. And Park. Part of it. What does that mean? It means our families have a history. Business. No. The single word altered the room. Naomi looked toward the empty chairs. The men who were here. They advise me. On what? Matters that do not belong to Kong Global. What matters? Min-jun's face remained calm, but the effort required to maintain it had become visible. Naomi. No. She stepped closer. You don't get to use my name as a warning every time I reach a question you don't want to answer. His gaze dropped briefly. She continued. Someone studied my movements. Yes. They entered my office building. Yes. They disabled security cameras. Yes. They tested whether they could reach me. Yes. And every man in this room understands why. Min-jun looked at her. Yes. Except me. The rain pressed harder against the windows. He moved toward her. Naomi lifted one hand. Not in fear. To stop him from replacing truth with closeness. I love the man who brought me tea outside my office. Min-jun became still. I love the man who showed me his grandfather's home. Her voice remained steady. The man who waited for me at a cafe every Thursday. She looked around the room. But that man is standing at the head of a table where 12 powerful men wait for his permission to speak. Min-jun's expression revealed pain. Not because she had misunderstood him. Because she had understood enough. Both men are real, he said. Naomi held his gaze. Then stop introducing me to only one of them. Silence. On the far side of the room, a door opened unexpectedly. Mr. Han stepped inside. His face revealed nothing, but urgency followed him. Chairman. Min-jun turned. What is it? We found Lee Sang-ho's vehicle. And Park wanted us to find it. Mr. Han placed a phone on the table. A photograph filled the screen. Inside the abandoned vehicle, a black calligraphy brush rested across a sheet of white paper. Beneath it, a message. 3 words. Ask him who. Naomi read it, then looked at Min-jun. What does that mean? Min-jun's eyes remained on the message. It means Park knows you are here. The room seemed to contract around them. How? We don't know. Mr. Han's phone vibrated. He read the next message. His expression changed. Only slightly. Enough. Chairman. Min-jun looked toward him. There has been a breach in the eastern courtyard. The lights went out. For 1 second, complete darkness. Then emergency lighting filled the room in deep red. Mr. Han moved immediately toward Naomi. Min-jun reached her first, not pulling her behind him, placing himself between her and the door. Footsteps moved beyond the corridor. Fast, controlled. More than one person. Naomi felt Min-jun's hand close around hers. His voice changed. Low. Absolute. Stay with me. She looked toward him in the red emergency light. The man beside her was no longer hiding. Not because he had chosen honesty, because danger had removed the option. The doors opened, for men entered. They stopped the moment they saw Min-jun, then lowered their heads. Perimeter secured. Chairman. Min-jun did not release Naomi's hand. Report. One intruder entered through the eastern service gate. Where is he? Detained. Alive? Yes. The question struck Naomi. Not because he had asked it, because everyone in the room understood why it mattered. Min-jun looked toward Mr. Han. Seal the compound. Yes, Chairman. No one leaves. His voice carried no hesitation, no corporate civility, no trace of the man who teased her about being 38 seconds late. Naomi watched the men obey. Again. Immediately, Min-jun turned back to her. The emergency lights reflected along the angles of his face. For once, there was no carefully constructed answer waiting behind his eyes. Only the truth he had postponed, and the fear that once she heard it, she might leave. Naomi withdrew her hand from his, slowly, not rejecting him, creating enough space to see him clearly. She looked at the men, the sealed doors, the surveillance photographs, the calligraphy message, the darkened compound, then finally, at Min-jun. Her voice was quiet, steady, unavoidable. Who are you? Min-jun held her gaze. The most dangerous truths are rarely the ones we discover. They are the ones someone we love chose not to tell us. If you were Naomi, would you give Min-jun the chance to tell you the whole truth, or has he already kept too much from her?